Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. My name is Mary Ann Monteleone. I'm Vice President of Professional Development. So welcome to LIBOR's Wednesday webinar on this gorgeous spring-like day. We have a very, very special guest with us today, but I do have to tell you a story on how I came to find her. I was looking on my Twitter account, and a friend that I know and respect had tweeted something that she put out, which is a study done by the National Association of Realtors called A Snapshot of Race and Homebuying in America. I retweeted it and I took a look at it, and then I chased Nadia down to be one of our guests on our Wednesday webinars, and we're so thrilled because she was so accommodating to say yes, and we put this date on the calendar, which makes it even more meaningful because April is Fair Housing Month. So I'm going to read your intro, Nadia, but I do want to thank you for being with us today and
Thank you. I'm so honored.
and being so responsive. So welcome, everyone, and I want to introduce Nadia and start our webinar. Nadia is a senior economist and director of forecasting at the National Association of Realtors. While all real estate is local, she focuses on regional and local market trends, including the effects of changing demographic and migration patterns to forecast housing activity. Nadia has been involved in research and analysis about local housing affordability conditions and local solutions to increase housing inventory. She also studies the effects of federal policies on the real estate market. Nadia holds a master's degree in applied economics from Johns Hopkins University, as well as advanced degrees in international European economics and public administration. So it's my honor and privilege to introduce and turn it over to Nadia Evangelou.
Hi, Marianne. Thank you. Thank you for the great introduction. And good morning, everyone. So before starting my presentation, I would like to thank you for having me here today. Give me the opportunity to discuss with you about the homeownership trends among racial groups. Like recently, as Marianne mentioned, we released a study that shows that not everyone has the same opportunities to become a homeowner and accomplish the American dream. So this is actually the second year that we produced this report. The reason that we conducted this study is because we wanted to see who can benefit from homeownership. And in fact, if everybody has the same opportunity to become a homeowner, but why owning a home is so important. Like psychologists say that for many people, like their home is part of their self-definition, which is why we do things like decorate our homes and take care of our loans. Thus, a home isn't just where we are, it's who we are. Like nowadays, especially during the pandemic, after spending like so many hours like at home, we know better than anyone else what home features we really want and we need to have. So I will start sharing my screen. So today I would like first to present to you why homeownership matters, like showing you some of the social and economic benefits of homeownership. Then I will take a look, we are gonna take a look together at the homeownership trends in the past decade, and we will focus on homeownership trends among races at national and local level. Finally, I will present to you the characteristics of the home buyers by race and how we could help more Americans from minority groups to become homeowners. So let's start first with the social benefits of homeownership. Research has consistently shown the long-term social benefits to individual homeowners and communities. But before mentioning the social benefits, I think we should first answer the question, how can homeownership bring substantial social benefits for families, communities, and the country as a whole? And the answer to this question is through its strong correlation with stable housing. Like specifically, homeownership and stable housing go hand in hand. Like homeowners typically remain in their homes for a much longer time period than renter households. And this residential stability like provides a wide range of benefits, not only to the homeowner, but also for the broader community. As the data shows, the median duration that householders like lived in their home was about like 10 years for homeowners compared to only 2 years for renters. So there is a big difference between like these homeowners and renters about how long they stay at their place. In the meantime, consistent findings show that homeownership does make a significant impact on children's development and education. Like children of homeowners and students like attending schools in the areas with large concentrations of homeowners benefit from the community in multiple ways. Like first, children of homeowners are less likely to move as frequently as children of renters. This also means that children do not change like school, as I mentioned, they don't change like schools so frequently, like providing more stability in the educational like environment. Like research has shown that children of homeowners were significantly less likely because of the stability. While in another study, we see that the higher quality of life among homeowners contributes to the well-being of both like homeowners and their children. Like for example, young children of homeowners tend to have like higher levels of achievement in math and reading, and fewer like, for example, like behavioral like problems because of the good quality of life. Finally, more recently, researchers like found that the act of saving for down payment make children of homeowners less likely to drop out of school. Moreover, this stability, which comes from homeownership, leads also to more participation in local civic organizations, which results in even stronger like social networks. According to several studies, homeowners are 16% more likely to vote in local elections. In the meantime, we see that homeownership has a strong correlation with the number of organizations and the activities that homeowners are members or more organized, or we can see that these people are involved in more community activities than renters. Furthermore, we also see that homeowners and children of homeowners are generally happier and healthier than non-homeowners. This happens because homeowners' mental and physical health is positively affected by first the wealth building effect of homeownership that we will talk a little bit later, and the sense of control that they have through housing stability. Finally, research on crime and homeownership shows that there is a lower crime rate among homeowners and people living in a stable housing environment. Stable housing environment and stable neighborhood likely reduce crime, since it is easier to recognize someone who commits a crime in a stable neighborhood with extensive social ties. But let's go now and take a look at the economic benefits of homeownership on both the economy and the individual household. And let's start with the impact of the homeownership on the economy. According to the latest data, the housing sector accounted for nearly 20% of the GDP in 2020. Since homeowners spend about 10 years in their homes, this also means that Americans do not view homeownership as one and done. They want to constantly improve. So homeowners after 10 years typically sell their starter home and trade up. Thus, homeowners do buy multiple homes over the lifetime, and this process contributes to economic growth and job creation. But how? Specifically, with each home sale, There are expenditures like related to lawn care, home remodeling, like new furniture, mortgage origination, like moving and building like new homes. Like it's true that a part of these earned incomes like get spent in the local economy, which is called the multiplier effect, in the form of eating at restaurants or buying a car. We estimated that the total impact of a home sale was 94,000 in 2020, like nationwide. However, the economic impact is even higher in some areas. We actually compute the impact of a home sale for every state, and we see that it can be higher, like than 260,000 in some areas. Specifically in New York State, every home sale generates more than 100,000 income in the local economy. As we can see here in the slide, 52% of this income like comes from the new home construction, and then 28% of it like from real estate like industries such as like commissions and fees, followed by the multiplier effect, about like 16% of it, and 5% like from expenditures like related to home purchase, like furniture and remodeling. Moreover, sustainable like homeownership contributes to wealth accumulation for owners. Like specifically based on the latest data, a typical homeowner's like net worth was about like 255,000, while that of a renter's was only like 6,300 as of like 2019. These are the latest data that we have from the Federal Reserve. That being said, the net worth of a typical homeowner is about like 40 times the net worth of a renter. Thus, based on the above, homeownership has a very strong impact on both the economy and the individuals, and everyone should have the opportunity to enjoy these benefits. But let's go now and see how homeownership is trending over the years. Like looking back to the 60s, we actually see modest gains like during the 60s, 70s, and 80s. However, during the early 90s, the homeownership rate started like rising like significantly as mortgage rates like steadily like declined. Actually, the homeownership rate in the US reached its peak in 2004 at 69%. However, homeownership like fell in the wake of the foreclosure crisis and the Great Recession. After falling like for 12 consecutive years, homeownership rate reached the lowest level like in more than 50 years, up at 63.4%. Then it gradually like has increased in the last like 3 years, but as you can see, it's still below the historical average. We should have in mind that the falling homeownership rate is not the choice of consumers. Like, to my knowledge, and based on our consumer survey, the majority of people, about like 70% of them, believe that homeownership is part of the American dream. But focusing on the past decade, as we can see in the graph here, today, Americans are less like likely to own their own homes compared to 10 years earlier. Like, although the homeownership rate has continuously risen since 2015, it still remains like lower than in 2009. Specifically, the homeownership rate was 64.2% 2019 compared to 66% in 2009. However, more households became homeowners in 2019 from a year earlier. Like, in fact, the homeownership rate rose like 0.2% in 2019 compared to 2018. This translates actually to nearly about like 1 million more homeowners across the country. So sometimes we see the percentage point like doesn't feel to be like so big, but when we translate that in the actual number of the homeowners, then we can see that 1 million more homeowners. This is a great addition, like a great addition from the previous year. However, the overall homeownership rate does not tell the full story. Looking at the homeownership rates like by race group, we see that the homeownership rate for white Americans have been consistently near like 70% since 2017. In the same period, like the homeownership rate for Black Americans has been like nearly 30%, that's like points like lower than those of white Americans, above, which was like above like 41% like from 2017 and on. So for Hispanic like Americans, the homeownership rate has held like above 47%. And for Asian Americans, it has been like below 59% over the same like time period. In the last 10 years, the homeownership rate rose only for Asians to 60.7% in 2019 from 59.5% like back in 2009. However, the homeownership rate for Black Americans dropped in 2019 compared to 2009, which is the most affected group like by declines in homeownership like rates before, like during and after the Great Recession. So as a result, given that homeownership like contributes to wealth accumulation and that the homeownership rate is lower in minority groups, data shows that the net worth for African Americans is also lower, like at nearly 190,000, the net worth like of the typical white family was nearly like about 8 times greater than that of a Black family, which was like the net worth was about like 24,000 in 2019. Thus, we thought since all real estate is local, this gap on homeownership rates between race groups may be even larger in some areas. Thus, we computed the homeownership rates by race for every state, and indeed, in some areas, like there are more racial like inequalities on homeownership. Like focusing on Black Americans, we see that homeownership rate for Black Americans varied from 5% to 70% across the country. The map here shows you how many of the Black Americans are homeowners in every state. So actually, it's very sad to see that, for example, in North Dakota, only 5% of the Black Americans own a home. So among 52 states, like included Puerto Rico and the District of Columbia, 18 states had a homeownership rate for Black Americans higher than 42%, which was the national rate in 2019. Puerto Rico with 70%, South Carolina and Maryland with 52% were actually the states with the highest homeownership rates like for Black Americans in 2019. In contrast, like as we can see, North Dakota with 5%, Wyoming with 18%, and Montana with 20% had the lowest homeownership like rates for Black Americans. Specifically in New York, our state, the homeownership rate for Black Americans was 31%, which means that it's lower than the national level. This means that Black Americans are less likely to be homeowners in New York compared to most of the areas across the country. And then when we compare the homeownership rate between white and Black Americans, we see that the gap between these two race groups is more than 30%. Like, in fact, it's like 32%, which means that Black Americans are lagging well behind white Americans on homeownership. But why these people cannot become homeowners? And let's think why homeownership rates like for Black Americans are varied like so significantly across our country. And the main reason that we see these differences in homeownership is mostly due to the affordability. Like thus we also computed how many households can afford to buy the typical home for every state and race group. Like indeed, in most, we see that in most of the states with higher homeownership rates for Black Americans, housing is more affordable for them there compared to other states. Like for instance, in Alabama, we see that more than 50% of Black Americans own a home, while more than 50% of these households can afford to buy the typical home in Alabama. In contrast, in Wyoming, we see that 18% of Black Americans own a home, since less than 20%, like about like 16% of these households can afford to buy the typical home in the area. In New York, we see that indeed housing is less affordable for Black Americans compared to any other race. Specifically, as you can see, 37% of African Americans can afford to buy the typical home statewide, compared to 40% for Hispanics, 54% for Asians, and 55% like for whites. And when we compare with other neighbor like states of New York, like we see, for example, that homeownership rate for Black Americans is higher in Pennsylvania at 42%, where nearly like 1 in 2 like Black Americans can afford to buy the typical home in Pennsylvania. The same with Connecticut. Like, so yes, indeed, affordability seems to be one of the main reasons that we see these inequalities like among races. But let's focus now on the recent home buyers and those people who bought their home in 2019. And these are the latest data that we have from the ACS. We see that 8% of the home buyers in New York was a Black American, which is above the national level, which was like 5%. Thus, this is good news for the state, since we see that although homeownership rate for Black Americans is lower than nationwide, more Black Americans like bought a home in the state compared to nationwide. And then looking at other like neighboring states, the share of Black American buyers in New York was higher than that in Pennsylvania, Connecticut, and Massachusetts. However, keep in mind that New York is a more diverse like state than other neighboring states. So these can affect a little bit like the percentage like of the home sale distribution like by race. So let's take a look now at the characteristics like of the home buyers by race. I think by looking at the demographics, we may understand like better why Black home ownership is lagging compared to other races. So what do we see? Compared to other races, Black home buyers are nearly at the same age with white home buyers, like 48 median age for Black Americans, and 49 is the median age for whites. But they're older than Asian and Hispanic home buyers. As we expected, like Black home buyers earn less than any other race, about like 85,000. In contrast, we see that Asian home buyers earn more than 110,000, Hispanics about like 90,000, and whites nearly like 100,000. And when you look at the income earners in the household, you see that in many of these households, in the Black like households, only one in the household like has an income. So this can be one of the reasons that we can see why why they earn like less income, lower income than the other races. Then looking at the household composition of these buyers, we found out that only like 50% of there were like about 50% of the Black home buyers were married couples, compared to 70% for Asians and 63% like for whites. In the meantime, it's interesting to see that about 30% of these Black home buyers were single women, which was actually the highest, like by far, like among other races, like nearly twice the share for whites and Hispanics and 3 times that of Asians. So it's very encouraging, I think, to see that Black Americans do not hold, like especially women do not hold on their home purchase until to get married and are able to benefit from home ownership. Based on our study, we also found out that Black Americans are more likely to have student debt. And actually, compared to whites, are more than twice as likely to have a student debt, while the amount of the student debt was much higher. Like as you see, 43% of the Black Americans have a student debt of the amount about like 40,000 compared to 21% of whites who had like a student debt with a median like student debt amount of about like 30,000. So while student debt is one of the main obstacles for many like home buyers, this finding can definitely like explain why Black Americans cannot become like homeowners, and their homeownership like rate like remains for so many years like so low. Then we also see that Black applicants like were rejected for mortgage loans at a rate about like 2.5 times greater than white applicants, like 10%, as you can see for it was the rejection rate for Black Americans versus 4%, which was for whites. This also means that although Black Americans want to buy a home, they cannot do it, like since they are not able to finance their home purchase. While the main reason that their applications were rejected is the debt to income ratio, Black Americans reported that they were also denied like for having a low credit score at a much like higher rate than any other rate, like 48%. So according to the census data, Black home buyers are more likely to finance their home purchase, like since, as we have already like mentioned, Black home buyers like earn less than white home buyers. Nationwide, 76% of white home buyers like financed their home purchase in 2019, compared to 81% like for Black home buyers. At the local level, in the following like 9 states, like all Black home buyers like were able to finance their home purchase in 2019, like 100% like financing of all, which means like all of them were able to finance. So we see that it's like Delaware, Hawaii, Iowa, Montana, New Hampshire, Utah, Vermont, West Virginia, and Wyoming. However, the share of Black home buyers who financed their home purchase was lower than 60% in Mexico, Maine, Oklahoma with 53%, Connecticut with 56%, and Michigan, which had like 60% about like the rate of how many like they financed the home purchase. This also means that more than 40% of Black home buyers paid all cash for their home purchase for these areas. Based on the data, all Black home buyers paid all cash for their purchase in New Mexico. But you may wonder how these people like were able to pay all cash since they had the lowest income. While the data does not provide, unfortunately, any information about the reason that they didn't get a home loan, the small value of their purchased homes may be one of the reasons. Like, in fact, the median home value of the homes purchased by Black Americans was only like 35,000 like in 2019 for New Mexico. So this can explain why we see like in New Mexico, like everybody to pay all cash for their home purchase for Black Americans. Finally, I would like to show you some of the characteristics of Black home buyers versus like white home buyers in New York state. Regarding their demographics, we see that Black home buyers are older in New York, but it's interesting to see that they earn slightly like more than white home buyers, what white home buyers like earn. This is a finding that actually stood out to me, and I actually didn't expect to see that. However, the older age of these buyers may explain why these buyers earn more, while nationwide we saw the opposite. As for their household composition, we see that fewer of them like are married couples, like 37% compared to 53% for whites. Also, we see, and this is consistent with the national like profile of Black home buyers, single women to represent the second like largest group of home buyers after married couples, with about like 10% of them to be single women. As for the characteristics of the homes that they purchased, we see again that Black home buyers in 2019 bought a more expensive like home than whites, while like fewer of them bought a single family home, like 56% compared to 69% like for whites, and about like 12% of them to buy a townhome of the Black whites, like Black Americans, compared to 8% for white Americans. Finally, we see that more Black Americans like finance their home purchase, about like 90% compared to 74%, which was the share for white Americans in New York. And all these data refer to 2019. So based on all the above, Black Americans are less likely to buy a home like nationwide. But the question is there something that could help like to close the gap in homeownership like rates between whites and Black Americans? In fact, here is like a 5-point like plan that we released like recently that NAR thinks that could help like more Black Americans to become homeowners. So let's take a look. First, we say that we should build more homes. Like the lack of housing supply like makes converting like from renting to owning very difficult. Like the lack of viable like purchase options, and we say that now that there are like in some areas dramatically like lower options like out there. So this results in competition like rapidly, which push up like home prices, preventing like pricing out some potential like first-time buyers and preventing them from entering the market. Then we also see another like way that we could do that to close the gap can be like to build more homes in opportunity zones. Like NAR supports strongly opportunity like zones as a means by which to invest like in the revitalization like of economically like distressed like areas. Moreover, to increase access to down payment like assistance could also help. Saving for down payment can be the biggest like hurdle for renters, as we can see from the data, like wanting to become homeowners. In recent years, a growing like number of first-time buyers like received help from family members with the down payment. So this shows that yes, indeed, they need some help in order to find the savings to buy a home. However, due to historical like gaps in accessing and accumulating like wealth, it's much more difficult like for African Americans to obtain like substantial like financial like assistance from family members. Therefore, increased access to federal down like payment like assistance based on a certain like income threshold is vital, and particularly for Black Americans. It's true that the proposed like tax credit of $15,000 for first-time like home buyers could really help like more Black Americans to achieve their homeownership dream. However, keep in mind that this increased like demand will make sense if we have like more supply. So we want to have like of course more people, but we have to increase. We should bear in mind that we have to increase the housing supply, so there will be like homes for them to buy. So furthermore, to strengthen like FHA's loan program, like FHA like loans have been an important like source of financing for first-time buyers and minority households. Like shifting federal like dollars to strengthen like the FHA like program could lower like mortgage insurance premiums and like monthly mortgage payments. And finally, by expanding like alternative like credit scoring models. This is another like way that we could increase like Black homeownership like rates, like expanding credit scoring like models to include like rent and utility payments, and thereby like adding like more positive like payment histories to better demonstrate like financial responsibility, can help like increase homeownership like opportunities for minority and first-time buyers. I also included here some links that I think, first of all, the link to our to our study, the snapshot of race and home buying activity like in America, and then some other links that I think that they're very useful, and where we put out like more studies, and especially for races. So this is and local like data that I think that are very useful. So that was everything from me, and thank you very much. I'm open to any questions there.
Let's see if anybody has any questions. Thank you, Nadia. That was so much great information. I know it was done in 2020. Is that right? Oh, you're muted, Nadia. Okay.
I'm sorry. Yeah, we released it in 2021. So, however, keep in mind that ACS data, they're very lagged. So the latest data that we have like is 2019, like in September, we will have the 2020. And then most of the survey data, they're like from the 2020, like home buyers and sellers report that we have. So they're like 2019 and 2020 data.
Is that an annual report?
Yes. So we started like last year. So it was almost like a last minute that we had this idea, and we included like fewer information, like less information in our first like report. But now the second time we included like more information, and then like next year we will definitely like add more. My goal is to, because I'm doing like the first part more about the housing statistics, so I will try to give more information about home buyers, the black like home buyers by race and their demographics, like what their characteristics, so you can have like more granular like level information, because now unfortunately everything is like in the report at national level, but using ACS, the American Community Survey, we're able to add like more granular level information there about the demographics of the home buyers, like by race.
Yes. Let me come on camera with you. Okay. So someone is asking if we could have, if you share your slides. I don't know if that's, oh, great.
Yeah. I will send you like after we finish the session, like after I will send you the slides and you can share with everybody. And of course, if there's any question, because I know there's a lot of information, so whenever you have a question, I'm more than happy to answer any question. So you can just like email me. I included my email, so I'm open to any questions like there, because I know there's so much information. Sometimes it's like,
yeah, it's great information. It should be interesting to see how the data changes from year to year, based on the proactive programs and putting into place. So we hope to have you back, hopefully,
sure,
hopefully before a whole year, but we hope to have you back for sure. And anyone listening, any LIBOR member can go to lirealtor.com/COVID. And we have all of our Wednesday webinars there for your listening, if in case you missed it or you want to share. And certainly Nadia's, and she's being generous enough to share the slides. So we'll have them there as well. So on behalf of LIBOR, its leadership and members, I want to thank you, Nadia, for being with us.
Thank you. It was an honor to be with you and discussing about homeownership trends, like about by race. I think it's a great topic, and hopefully next year, like before next year, we can see like that we can just like close this gap, because it has been like more than all the years now that we can see this big gap like among these races. So hopefully we can close the gap and we can help like more people to enjoy
right. Compare the data then. Yes. Okay. Have a great day. And thank you again.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Have a good one.